Every weekend is the same. I'm the one you try to claim. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. Call me up with no shame. All your words sound the same. Yeah, I already know about your game, but I'm not the one to sit around and be played. If you come around just to play me, don't bother, cause you're way overdue. Don't even try to convince me. Don't bother, cause now I see you through. If you come around just to whatever. All this ever about you long gone, it don't matter. Ride or die, that's been the deal. The light of your back, I disappear. But if you don't play that for me, I'm out of it, I'm out of it. I lick my gun and then I'm done. I'm out of it, I'm out of it. I need an old man to tell me you're no good. I'm brushing away to you, the weight of you, of my shoulders. Done with my cigarette, and when all the smoke is clear, I'm brushing away to you, the weight of you, the weight of you. Don't need an old man. Tell me you're no good. I'm brushing away to you, the weight of you, of my shoulders. Done with my cigarette, and when all the smoke is clear, I'm brushing away to you, the weight of you, the weight of you. Don't need an old man.
She's a itty bitty spider with a itty bitty letter and a straight jacket round her waist. When she gets a bite, you better run, you better hide, better prove that you're not worth the chase.
Yeah, she might be pretty, but I promise it gets scary. Once she wants your daddy and she finds out where you live. Creeping in the shadows, eating poisoned apples. She's nothing like you ever seen. Her mood goes up and down and round and round, and ain't no telling what she might do next.
Cause she's a itty bitty spider with a itty bitty letter and she might
just come for you. Should always sleep with one eye open. You better keep in mind to always look over your shoulder. Cause when you think you're safe, just stay awake. She's moving closer.
Cause she's a itty bitty spider with a itty bitty letter and she might
just come for you.
She's a snake crawling, creeping on the floor. If you give her time of day, baby, that's your first mistake. She will swallow you whole, for you know you're controlled by a sweetheart criminal. Never thought that she's
welcome to another glorious Friday with yours truly, Neil Bridges, right here on Cybersecurity, tea with a hacker, rocking my nice little chai tea this morning. So excited to see everybody on this Friday morning. Woo! It's been a little bit of a week. There's definitely a lot to talk about, just in general about what's happening. But I am super excited to be here again on a Friday. I'm super excited to be streaming as always this week. We missed yesterday's stream. Jax was feeling unwell. I just got over, I got a story to tell you all. I'm getting over a little bit of crud in my chest as well. We'll get into that here in a little bit as well. But I'm glad to be here with you all this morning. Thank you, as always, for tuning in today, joining us. We are streaming live across multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, YouTube. We're not doing Instagram or TikTok this morning. I gotta set up vMix to do Instagram or TikTok, but we are streaming across multiple platforms this morning. So wherever you are, make sure that you got the volume up, you're tuned in, you're ready to rock and roll. Drop some claps in chat for this Friday morning, and let's get after it. Let's cover down on just a couple quick rules. You can tell like I don't have my script because I always try to wing it on Fridays. Even though Carmen hates it when I wing it. She's like, no, I mean that, right? So like we're up this morning. I'm doing my stretches, my daily mobility exercises, getting ready for the day and everything. And she's like, well, I'm gonna go upstairs. And I'm like, cool, let's go upstairs. And I was like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. Let's start the stream early. And she's like, no. I was like, why not? And she was like, you have a schedule. You stick to the schedule. You do not deviate from the schedule. That's how she's right. We got to stick to the schedule. So you thank Carmen. Otherwise, we'd been streaming early. Anyway, that's how excited I am to come here and stream on Fridays. I can also tell I get a little loud because she texts me as soon as I start to stream, and she's like, God, you're always so loud when you stream. That's what bringing the hype is like, people. That's what it is to bring the hype. Anyway, welcome to Friday. Caffeine. Let's cover down a couple rules. Obviously, we do have moderators in chat. I want to give a huge shout out to all my moderators. They are here voluntarily. Please give some massive respect and some massive cheers to all of our moderators in chat as well. They are here to keep chat free of racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. We have a zero tolerance policy for stuff like that. We believe that we believe in trying to be very, very inclusive when it comes to all things cybersecurity, whether you're new here, whether you've, been in the industry for 20, 30 or 100 years, all that stuff. We want you to feel welcome and have a good time here chatting with us. And so we don't have any tolerance for any of that crazy type of behavior. And so, my moderators are in charge of all that. If you do find yourself on a timeout or a ban, please message a moderator and get up with them. They'll be the ones who will kind of handle that stuff for you. They are not here, however, to stifle chat in any way whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we very much encourage participation with your fellow peers inside of all the respective chats. Interaction with me. That's one of the primary values of this stream being live, is that you see that I do respond to chat. I do talk to you wherever you're at, wherever you happen to be coming from, regardless of your background, your nature, your country, or what platform you happen to be messaging me on. And so please don't let that discourage you from chatting. With that being said, this is our Friday morning AMA. I've got a couple topics that I'll talk about just as I've seen the world transpire over the last weekish or so since we've chatted last. We'll kind of talk a little bit about some of that stuff, but fundamentally, I sit here and I answer your questions. Why is that important? There's a lot of shows that talk at you, right? We even have a show that talks at you. That's what our sec data ops is we talk a little bit at you. We have a specific topic where we want to kind of like get the information out. But there's rare time where you get to sit down and you get to talk to a cybersecurity professional like myself, well over 20 years of experience, largely in the offensive realm, time with the NSA, time with the government, time with the United States Air Force, building security teams for Fortune 100 companies, consultant for big companies like, PricewaterhouseCoopers, working in the startup area, both technical, tactical, also strategic, and sitting at the board level. And so it's an opportunity to sit here and chat with me, ask me any questions about any range of topics when it comes to the cybersecurity industry. And so it's important that you get that access to somebody that you can talk to about wherever you're at in this journey, whatever it is, the things that are interesting to you about cybersecurity. So we do ask that you ask questions. Ask them at any point in time. You can see that we flash questions up on the screen all the time to have them answered. Drop your questions in chat. We do have moderators grab them, push them up onto screen whenever they see them, and then we'll go through and try to answer them. See, just like that. We do, however, only have one real easy rule, which is only ask your question once, right? There's oftentimes an idea that if you ask a question, it doesn't get answered immediately, then we're not seeing your question. I promise you, all the moderators do see your questions, and they get added to a queue, and that queue gets populated over the course of the stream. And then as that queue populates out, as we get to different segments, we answer the question. That way, it kind of keeps the chat flowing, keeps the chat moving. So we do ask that you only ask your question once, but I do promise you that we do see all of your questions, and we do our best to add them into queue, and we do our best to absolutely try to answer them all in stream over the course of the entire time that we stream together. So I promise you, get those questions put in to queue, and we will answer them. Speaking of, huge shout out to Callie. Callie's a long time supporter of the stream. He's been around almost since day one. I like to think that he's in South Carolina when in reality he's in South Korea. He was one of the interns that we did when we did the intern program. He's also the only intern that we had fail out of the intern program. Take it for what it is. We won't hold that against him though. So glad to see Callie. Hopefully Callie, you don't mind. Callie went through like many of you, Callie went through a rough patch as he's trying to get into cybers. He's trying to find his way in the world. Everybody goes through rough stuff. And as Callie will tell you, like the most important part of going through a rough patch is keeping your head up, keeping your eye on the prize, keeping your eye on the ball moving forward, and make sure you're surrounded with people who love you and support you the entire way. And so with all that being said, if you're in Twitch and you see Callie, please head over to Callie's channel and throw him a follow. Follows are free. I owe you that one, Callie. You taught me that one, but that is true. Follows are free. Give Callie a follow. Check him out when he's streaming over on Twitch. He's a good man, good supporter of the stream, and love to have you in the community and miss your voice in the mornings, when you're around. So with that being said, he does have a question. How do you create content again when you're recovering from an extensive burnout? This is huge, right? So say content is hard. You can see some of that hackiness is coming back. Make no mistake about it, content is hard, right? Let me rephrase that. Content is easy, good content is hard. That's probably the better statement, right? I think that anybody can fire up a camera or write a blog or anything else like that and really start to produce content. And I think everybody should. Let me say this unequivocally, right? I think everybody should produce content. Make sure you hear that, right? Everybody should produce content, especially if you're in this industry. I oftentimes talk about a need to differentiate yourself. And the easiest way to differentiate yourself is to put yourself out there to be seen. The reason why I say that is because not a lot of people are putting themselves out there. As a matter of fact, several of you are probably going to hear this and be like, I'm not putting myself out there. Like, you're out of your mind. That's one less person that you have to compete with when it comes to producing content. Just think about that. I'll tell you, I don't know how it is for you, Callie, but for me, the hardest part about taking a break from content and coming back to content is the imposter syndrome. And this hit me pretty hard. This hit me pretty hard when I took that break after I got diagnosed with cancer. And again, like when I talk about asking questions, feel free to ask me questions about my cancer. I have absolutely no problem answering any questions about my cancer. I know we haven't talked about it in a while, and somebody actually mentioned that after the last stream. And it's always hard to know what you guys are interested in and what you guys aren't interested in. And so feel free to ask about any of that stuff. It's not taboo to talk about the cancer at all whatsoever. But when I took that break between getting diagnosed with cancer and when we decided to feel normal and come back to streaming, that imposter syndrome was definitely real, right? Which was very much like, oh my God, do people even still want to hear from me? Have I become irrelevant? Yes, even I had that. I swear to you, audience, I had that. When I turned on that camera for the first time after I'd taken a break from streaming, I very much had that, do people still find me relevant? Do people still want to hear what I have to say? And let me tell you that, you know, if any of you have loved ones, and I'm speaking from personal experience, right? If any of you have loved ones and you go away on a deployment, if you're in the military, or you go away for a business trip for a really long time, and you don't see your loved ones, you know, for weeks and weeks on end, and then you come back and you see your loved ones and they're hugging you and you're kissing you, and it's almost like you never left. I had that feeling when I came back streaming. So you have to overcome that and realize that you build a community, you create an audience that is there because they enjoy what it is that you have to say to the world. And sometimes it's hard to take that. I mean, sometimes it's hard to understand that. Sometimes you take that for granted. But we've built a community here. And so coming back and realizing that the community was grateful for me and was willing to give me the agency that I needed to find myself, to get myself right, to get my head in a space where I could sit here and answer questions for everybody and not have this existential dread of cancer and things like that. Those are things that are important for the people who follow your content, whether it's written or video or whatever the case is. And so you have to overcome that feeling that people aren't doing you a favor by coming and listening to your content. What they're doing is they believe in you. They believe in your message. They love what it is that you have to say. And you know, with all that stuff being said, they're going to be there to support you no matter what. And so I you know, you should always produce content. Everybody who hears my voice always should produce content. Please produce content. You have something amazing to offer this world. I'm here to tell you this right now. You have something amazing to offer this world, this industry. No matter where you're at in this journey, you have something amazing to offer this industry. So please produce the content. And if you've produced content in the past, you've taken a break either because of burnout or life issues or things like that, trust me when I tell you that the audience that loved you before will love you again when you come back. I promise you that. I promise you that. Essence over on LinkedIn says, oh my God, I was just about to ask about imposter syndrome in general. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a very real thing to talk about. Typical Seminole, good to see you again. Thank you so much for the sub. 11 months in a row. We've got some long-time subbers in this channel. I was looking back through some of the the sub stats, and we've got some people who have been on this train for multiple years. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. I see Oreo Bite. I see your question there about content. Let me smash on that one really quick, and then I'll I'll answer that one as well. It looks like, according to someone on YouTube, it looks like YouTube may be dropping and uploading the stream. I've got a lot of panels up that try to monitor a lot of things because we do stream across a lot of channels. I'm not seeing any dropped bits, and actually on the replay here on YouTube Studio, it looks okay. But if you're seeing some dropped, bits or some dropped frames, try one of the other channels, try refreshing. But we always do try to monitor them to make sure that things are going well. Let's talk about imposter syndrome because Essence asked a really good question over on LinkedIn to talk about imposter syndrome. First and foremost, we do have an imposter syndrome. I should ask one of my mods to do this, but I decided to do it myself. Essence, I'm going to drop a link to you over in LinkedIn, and I'll do this over in YouTube as well. I did an entire video on imposter syndrome. This was one of the first videos that I did, because it very much was a question that I got asked a ton, right, when we first started out. And so imposter syndrome is real. Listen, let me tell you unequivocally, everybody in this industry has imposter syndrome. I do not care what they tell you to your face, and I do not care how long they've been in this industry. If you guys remember Joel Fulton, I've had Joel Fulton on this stream for numerous times. We plan on having him come back on Sec Data Ops here in the next couple weeks. I've asked him if he's had imposter syndrome. We're talking about a dude who's an entrepreneur now. He's a former CISO at companies like Splunk. He's a former CISO at companies like Symantec. He's been around this industry for a while. even dudes like that get tons of imposter syndrome, right? So everybody in this industry gets imposter syndrome. If somebody tells you that they don't, then they're lying to you first and foremost, right? So with that being said, right, once you realize that everybody gets imposter syndrome, all of a sudden it should start to take off a little bit. That like, okay, it's normal. It's normal for me to feel like this. And once you normalize it, then it becomes really easy for you to tackle it. So take a look at the video that I sent you. Take a look at the video that's in chat. And there's 4 actionable things that I talk about in that video that anybody can do today. Anybody can do today at any point in time. They're not specific to how long you've been in this industry. They're not specific to what you're studying. They're not specific to anything like that. They are psychological things. I did the research on this. I studied up on the psychological effects of imposter syndrome and made a video that almost kind of, and it's a short video. We're not talking about a long video, but it's a video that acts as a way for you to just kind of repeat it to yourself, like focus on the things that you do have success with, right? Realize that, normalize that mentality and behavior inside your head, right? That those positive affirmations, like they're going to be actionable things that if you start to feel that imposter syndrome, you can watch that video, you can go through those exercises, and they should absolutely help you overcome it. But happy to talk about it. Love to talk about the imposter syndrome because it is very real. And yes, everybody goes through it. Sean Spence over on LinkedIn. Neil, my mentor. Good to see you, Sean. Hope you're doing well. Yes, we're going to talk about the CrowdStrike. Keep all your questions about CrowdStrike coming in chat. If you want to have the conversation about CrowdStrike, I will absolutely be giving my opinions on the CrowdStrike stuff. We will be talking about that for sure. I want to hit one more question over on LinkedIn from Bader. Bader says, hopefully I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. Neil, how do you deal with keeping constantly up to date at your level? E.g., do you follow courses or you rely more on conferences, exchanges with peers, forums, etc.? That's a fantastic question. Keeping up to date is probably another one of those next biggest questions that I get asked a ton about, right? Next biggest question I get asked a ton about is really about how do you keep up to date? And it's hard. Right, it's all right. I'll tell you another joke that happens inside of our house. So just for those who don't know, Carmen is also in cybersecurity. We have a household that has we are a cybersecurity household here. She was a consultant for PwC for 12 years. Now she works for a pretty large financial organization running cybersecurity for a really large financial organization. And so we're always talking about cybersecurity in our house. And so it's really funny. We almost have this tiny competition between the two of us where she'll send me something that happens in the news and I'll pick up my phone when she sends it to me and I'll look at it and be like, yeah, I read about that already. And she'll be like, damn it, I was hoping I sent you one that you hadn't seen yet. Sorry, I had to finish off the last little bit of caffeine that was in there. So we have this little joke that we do between us, about trying to stay up to date. I want you to understand something. I'm going to make a suggestion, and the reason I feel like I have to preface this suggestion is because I feel like some people have a predisposition based on their own non-logical assumptions about what I'm about to say. And I say that very explicitly, right? Non-logical assumptions, right? Remember, I spent 10 plus years in the United States Air Force, largely with an intelligence agency, right? The National Security Agency. And a lot of, there's a ton of things that I've learned by being a part of an intelligence organization, right? Namely, how to gather intelligence. When you're at an intelligence organization and your goal is to gather intelligence, at no point in time do you say, well, I'm not going to gather intelligence over here because I don't agree with that. Do you? Do you think the NSA goes, you know what? We're not going to gather some intelligence over here. No, don't like their political beliefs. Not going to gather any intelligence over there. You think NSA does that? You think any intelligence agency does that? And so whether you like it or not, and this is gonna hurt some of you. Prepare yourself. When I say prepare yourself, breathe in. Like I got a chiropractor and a physical therapist, and right before he lines my back, he's like, okay, I want you to breathe in, Neil, because he's about to smash my spine together. Breathe in and get ready to accept this. Social media is the best way to stay up to date. Like it or not, social media is the best way to stay up to date. We live in an information age where things happen at the speed of social media, right? And so if you're not understanding that things happen that fast, then you're already gimping yourself when it comes to staying up to date. Right? And it is like, it is an annoying platform, right? Twitter is an annoying platform, but you can, if you follow the right accounts, you can literally find up to the minute things that happen in our industry as they happen. Period. Dot. That's the end of the conversation. You can literally have up to the minute news. And so like I want to, and that's why I say brace yourself, because things like Twitter. So Zaf says, I'll put this one up on screen so you can see this. I do have a list on my Twitter account. If you've not seen it, there is a list on my Twitter account where it has some of the top threat intelligence accounts that I follow. Right? And so like I do have a list going for that. I would generally say, outside of the golf stuff that I follow, if you were to click on all the accounts that I'm following, and again, you're not going to have to look through 10,000 accounts that I'm following, because I try to keep my list, I want to make sure everybody understands this. If I don't follow you back, it's not personal. If I don't follow you back, it's because I use my Twitter account for exactly what I need it for, which is to follow news and to follow the latest and greatest news. And so my follower list are the news accounts that I think are important to stay up to date with new stuff, right? And so I say all that to say, like, don't get offended. Absolutely, I want to follow you. Maybe someday I'll create like another. If Twitter would allow me to have a follower list that I keep for news, and then a follower list where I'd follow everybody, I absolutely would. Like, I believe in that. Like, hey, if you can do the respect of following me, I want to do the respect of following you back. But I want to make sure that I always see this stuff. I think that they may have added that feature. Anyway. You can tell I get on like a nice little rant about that. But Twitter is amazing. Twitter really is amazing for finding accounts and following them. As a matter of fact, in the light of the CrowdStrike stuff, and Jazzy says, what are your top 10 accounts? I couldn't list for you the top 10 accounts on my, right now, right here. But I would definitely say things like VX Underground. Like if you're not following VX Underground, you should be following VX Underground. I think I have several of the darknet the darknet accounts that I follow. They're holistic darknet market accounts that track a lot of the stuff that's being posted on like breach forums and stuff like that. Like I said, go through my follower list and you can see it there. Those are places. And so like this week, as the CrowdStrike thing was unfolding, both some of the darknet market Twitter accounts that I followed, as soon as somebody posted on breach forums the fact that somebody allegedly had the entire IOC list from CrowdStrike, that got picked up by them literally within an hour of it being posted on breach forums. And then not only an hour after that did VX Underground start posting about it. And then I think it was 2 or 3 hours after that, VX Underground had actually gotten an interview with the US DoD guy who had claimed to have had that IOC breach list and had given the details about it. And so like, that's how fast you can get access to news like that when you follow the right accounts. And so, like I said, VX Underground, and then go follow like some of the accounts that I follow on there as well, and you'll see it there. I would love to have one of their hard drives as well. I just don't have anything to do with the hard drive just yet, but I have also thought about like having one of their hard drives. But that's a fantastic question over on LinkedIn from Batter. But again, don't knock don't knock TikTok. I know. But China, Neil, get off your high horse. If you're worried about China on TikTok, then you're a hypocrite, because you shouldn't be watching me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or LinkedIn or Instagram and then going, but China on TikTok, because those social media accounts, those platforms are just as guilty of everything else that TikTok is. But there is good, still valuable stuff on TikTok, not just thirst trap dances. Listen, I this was great. This was a great piece of slam that was like one of those like little subtle hints that people hit them with, right? If all you see are thirst traps, people dancing, and crazy stuff on your For You page on TikTok, the algorithm is working as intended. That's not a TikTok problem. That's a your content problem. Just saying. I said it. That's a you problem. That's not a TikTok problem. There was one. Since we talked a little bit about, actually, hold on. There's a couple. I'm gonna go back a couple to a couple of questions that kind of came through. Callie's like, it's not a problem. Yes, exactly, Hector. You get recommended what you like and give attention to. So if you like and give attention to a lot of that stuff, the algorithm's going to give you more of it. So keep that in mind. Content is fun is hard. It's always, what do I want to talk about? I want to key in on this just before we move completely off the content topic, right? When we talk about like, what do you want to talk about? You should definitely enjoy the content that you put together, but also think about where you were when you started your journey and ask yourself, what do I wish there was more of? And that's a great place to start when you're trying to figure out what content to do. That's what I wanted to say about that, right? Oh, keep the questions coming. We've got lots of them in chat. I'm going to try to move through a couple of them. CrowdStrike is definitely bubbling up to the top of the list. We will definitely be talking about CrowdStrike here in a little bit. David C says, Neil, are you still offering one-on-one coaching sessions, resume reviews? Yes, unequivocally. If you're in Twitch, you can do, I'm checking this. I really shouldn't be doing this. I should let my mods be doing this, but I'm impatient. If you're on Twitch, you can hit !coaching. If you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or X, you can go to the top mate link inside of my profile. I did a one-on-one coaching session with somebody this week, as a matter of fact. It was yesterday. Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Did it Wednesday. I couldn't remember the days of the week. I did a 1 hour coaching session. I'm still trying. I'm gonna find a way. I need to spend some time in the top mate profile in the top mate page, because what I think I want to do is I think I want to give people the option of having their coaching session broadcast on stream. And I think that would be valuable for you all to see what it's like to have a one-on-one coaching session, because some of these coaching sessions that I have with people are absolutely amazing. I met with a guy this week who is a realtor. He does real estate, right? And he's currently working in the DoD on a massive DoD project. And he enjoys working for the government so much. I know that's odd to say for those of us who have spent decades in the military and, you know, things like that. But he enjoys working for the government so much, and he has gotten introduced to some IT and some cyber folks and has realized that he wants to elevate his standard of living out of real estate into cybersecurity, as most of you, I think, can relate to. Sorry about that. Part of that cold, rearing its ugly head. So anyway, He set up an hour's worth of time with me, and what we had done was he had told me all this history about himself and where he was coming from, and he had said that he had enrolled into college and he was taking college classes. So what we did with him was I actually pulled up his college curriculum, and we went through all of his courses for year 1 and year 2 and evaluated the syllabuses basically for some of the things, basically looking at some of the things that I've told you guys to be on the lookout for, right? Is it just, packaged up security plus, right? Are they teaching high quality content? Are they basically just scraping content from somewhere else, packaging it to you, and then saying, by the end of this, you should be able to go out and get Sec plus, A plus, Net plus, whatever the case is. And we got through all of his curriculum for year 1 and year 2. And I got to the end of it and I was like, hey, listen, this curriculum looks really, really good. Outside of diving into the individual classes and seeing what the individual assignments look like and what the individual things that are teaching you, on the surface, this curriculum looks really, really good. And so I say all that to say, the look of relief on his face, knowing that he had made the right decision, was priceless. Like that, the coaching session could have ended right there, then and there, because he had realized that he had made the right decision on the courses that he had chosen. And that happened within the first, I think, 20 or 30 minutes of the coaching session that we did. And then we kind of talked from there about, what he can expect about going through different hiring processes at the NSA, what he can go through about, how to plan out kind of the next 4 years of his life. And we built just kind of like a little mini roadmap specific for him, specific for the things that he was trying to accomplish, to be successful. Did I tell him to do a minor in business admin? We did. We talked about that, because we talked about, he asked me about master's degree, PhD, typical things that are very, very common for folks when they ask me about degree programs. And I kind of talked to him about the same things that we talk about here on stream, right? Which is that tenured professors in cybersecurity couldn't offer you anything in a master's and a PhD program like they can in medical and in law school and in accountants and things like that. And so I say all this to say, yes, I still do offer coaching sessions. We talk, there's tons of things that I do offer in terms of whether it's a resume review, whether it's a mock interview. You can absolutely, the mock interviews are cool because you can send me your resume, you can send me the job description, and I'll actually put myself in the hiring manager's seat, right? And I'll interview you as if I was that hiring manager for that role, right? So there's lots of things that I do. Use that TopMate link that you've got available, but I absolutely do still do them, and people take advantage of them. I don't think that enough people take advantage of them. That's my perspective. I think that we're in a really trying time right now. There's a saying, there's a saying out there, right? It's like, when did Noah build the ark? Before the rain. Before the rain. You all should be thinking about that right now, right? If you've got a job right now, if you've got some security right now, now is the time to build your ark, right? All right. We've put it off a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the CrowdStrike stuff. Dun, 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 dun. And again, if you're holding on to questions of CrowdStrike, get them in now, and we'll talk about them all together. If I say something that you want me to elaborate on, let's get them in now, and let's talk about them. So, if you're not aware, let's just recap it really quick, right? Last Friday, while yours truly was winning golf tournaments, I just want to point that out. That's for later. Last Friday, I picked up a W. Last Friday, there was a patch pushed, or an update push, rather, to CrowdStrike customers that ended up bricking a whole heck of a lot of Windows computers. And obviously that sent the entire world into a tizzy, right? Everything from Delta to all the major airlines to hospitals to rail systems to everything. Everybody and their brother who had a CrowdStrike Or at least that's what everybody was meant to believe. What was interesting was I actually saw a Microsoft report that said, based on their numbers, less than 3% of the Windows population was actually impacted by the CrowdStrike issue. I know it doesn't seem like that, or maybe 3% is a lot larger than we realize, but that was the statistic that I saw about it. But either way, that 3% ended up being pretty significant. So I won't comment on the technicalities of why it happened, mostly just because, like, I think there's a ton of write-ups on how it happened. I don't think there's any need to dive deeper into the logistics of putting a null pointer in a file and overriding it with zeros and how that caused malicious death. I think that's pretty much ubiquitously understood from all the write-ups that got out there. But let's talk about its impact to the world on a couple of different levels, right? I see source being, that's an interesting statement. I'll push that one up on screen after I get through some of this, but hold that thought a little bit, source. I like that. There's a couple of things that I do think are worth talking about. And I'll start with this one from Jake. The short answer is no. No, as a matter of fact, the impact of the CrowdStrike event will make companies more aware that cybersecurity is important enough to dedicate a budget to. No. The two things are about as far apart on the spectrum as you could ever imagine. The two things are about as far apart in the decision-making process as possible. CrowdStrike is a market leader. And they are a market leader because their presence is larger than their peers. Make sure you understand that. When you look at a Gartner or a Forrester chart, little known insider threat for Gartner and Forrester is that they're a market leader because everybody uses them, or at least 3% use them, right? And so when something like this happens, of course there is going to be impact because they're everywhere. Hopefully in the noise you saw, this is not the first time that something like this has happened. Microsoft has had something like this happen. If you remember back in the old days, McAfee has had something like this happen, right? Any software application that has a large enough market share presence has a responsibility to ensure that they do not have a negative impact due to a failure of their product. They have a responsibility to do so. And what this was a failure to ensure their responsibility was maintained. Let's go with the high points. Do I think that this was a state-sponsored attack? Absolutely not. Let's talk about this idea of the CrowdStrike incident being a state-sponsored attack. And if you disagree with me, please drop it into chat that you disagree with me. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and why you think this is a state-sponsored attack, because I wholeheartedly disagree that this was a state-sponsored attack. The reason that I don't think that this was a state-sponsored attack is because shit happens. Everybody, listen, conspiracy theories are weird. Everybody wants to believe that there's some malicious thing, some higher malicious thing that drives bad things happening in this world. When in reality, somebody just effed up. Right? I want to use another analogy, but we're not a political channel. We don't talk about politics. We keep politics very much out of our ecosystem for a very huge reason. But sometimes we've recently had another example. We've recently had another example where somebody just messed up because they failed to have a process, failed to adhere to a process. You know, they decided maybe they didn't have a process to begin with, and it had never, ever been a problem. And so they were like, well, we're so good, we don't need a process for this. Therefore, we're not going to put a process in place. And then lo and behold, what happens? The process breaks. Right? And so first and foremost, like what I think there's a what is it? Is it Sherlock Holmes? Right? Sometimes the answer is the most obvious one. Somebody just messed up. And so no, I don't think this was a state-sponsored attack. Right? I don't think this was a state-sponsored attack. I don't think that this was, a massive FBI cover-up of the attempted, assassination of Donald Trump. Again, we're not getting political. This is not political, but I've seen that conspiracy theory run out there, right? I don't think any of that. I think this was 100% arrogance of a company thinking that they didn't need to either have or adhere to a process. And maybe, who knows, like, you want to know the scary part? They've probably been operating like this for the entire time that they've been in business. And it's just never caught up to them. And last week was the moment in which it caught up to them. Exactly. Complacence, right? Last week was the time that it caught up to them. I've seen some remediation reports that have come out that have talked about like, oh, we're going to start doing these types of things to ensure this never happens again. And so the CISO in me wants to go, well, are you telling me that you weren't doing those things in the first place? And if that's the response that I have, then the logical answer is probably no. They weren't actually doing it in the first place, which is why they have to implement those processes now moving forward. Think about that for a second. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not a function of a state-sponsored attack. That is a function of the fact that you failed Process Implementation 101. That's my thought on it. There's what's the other old adage, right? This isn't the first time it's happened. This is just the first time that you've been caught. Right? That's the other way to look at this. This probably wasn't the first time that something has happened. It's just the first time that this has happened where it's been big enough to cause a nationwide, worldwide, global issue. Right? What do I think? What do I take away from this? From my perspective, right? Let's talk about like, what do you do with this information now that it's out there? Right? I think, and CyberTie says it very well, right? Interesting for threat actors to see which orgs use CrowdStrike, I'm sure. I think, and we've already seen one, in the military, we refer to it as second order attacks, right? Or second order effects. We've seen a second order attack. If you've seen VX Underground, I mentioned this before because it's still pretty fresh. I mentioned that after the CrowdStrike incident, in line with the CrowdStrike incident, a threat actor had posted on breach forums where they had scraped the entire IOC list from CrowdStrike and were offering it for sale. When it rains, it pours, right? First, there's this issue. now there's, and then there's this I want to talk a little bit about whether this was a breach or not, because that also came up about whether this was a breach or not, right? Callie, I want to talk about that too. Like there's actually good you bring that up. It's good you bring that up, Callie. Let's talk about that one here in a little bit, right? Anyway, so the second order effect of that, right, was that, yeah, somebody has already scraped, I think it was like 300 million plus or something like that, IOCs off the CrowdStrike engine, right? So definitely seeing a lot of second and third order effects that are happening from this. I don't think we're done seeing second and third order effects from this. I do think that threat actors are looking at this. I do think that threat actors are like, oh, wow, I wonder if that's something we could do. Make no mistake about it. Threat actors will absolutely look at this and go, I wonder if I can simulate this. I wonder if I could turn this into an attack somehow. Can I, so we had a, trying to think about how to phrase this where you'd understand what we had at the NSA about this, right? In the military, Kali, we had a platform that was very similar to Kali Linux at the agency. Let's just put that in your mind really quick, right? That platform, if you imagine Kali Linux in the military, we called that a weapon system. It was a weapon system, right? Because, and I've talked a little bit about this on stream at times where we talk about things like, Title 10 versus Title 18, things like that. And so because the military is a war-fighting machine, everything is a weapon. An AR-15 is a weapon, right? An M16 is a weapon. A missile system is a weapon. A Kali Linux type of platform that the military has is considered to be a weapon. And I was part of that weapon system. There was modules similar to Kali Linux where you could do things to deny, disrupt, degrade, destroy an enemy asset, an enemy IT asset as part of an operation. And I can guarantee you that if they weren't doing it already, they're looking at this exact thing and saying, I wonder if this is something we could simulate to deny, degrade, disrupt, destroy, right? Or whatever, to an enemy computer, enemy IT system. Because if you recall, there were some people who couldn't get into their Windows machines to delete that sys file because they had BitLocker on them, right? And it wasn't until Microsoft released hey, here's how you get around it. But then that should scare you too, where it's like, oh shoot, what do you mean I can now have this thing and get around BitLocker, right? And so I think what you're seeing, what you're looking at, what a way to look at that is, if you look at how this issue resolved itself, reverse engineer that, and I absolutely guarantee you that threat actors are absolutely looking at this and saying, how do I repeat this? Unequivocally, that is happening. Addison says, wait, is that Neil Bridges? Yes, it is. Good to see you. Picking back up on some of the thoughts that came through, right? Source being over on YouTube says it was probably an internal stress test to see how prepared we are for a cyber attack. No. Like, again, no. The United States nor CrowdStrike are able to coordinate in such a way that they would say, we're going to disrupt millions of travelers on Delta, right? Or any other thing, lose hundreds of millions of dollars, risk an SEC filing, have to go in front of Congress to testify, potentially, to Callie's point, I'll get to this one anyway, be held liable for millions and billions of dollars of downtime. There's no possible way. Like, think about that for a second. It doesn't pass the logic test. And that's what I want to encourage you to think about, right? It doesn't pass the logic test for George Kurtz to sit up there. George Kurtz lost $300 million in one day. $300 million of his net worth was wiped off in one day because of this incident. I think, as a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, their stock even got downgraded. Right? And so, no, I do not think that this was an intentional stress test to see how prepared we are for a cyber attack by any stretch of the imagination. Make no mistake about it, the military knows how the government as a whole knows how ill prepared we are for a cyber attack. It happens every year. Happens every year. There was another one that I saw. Yeah, CyberTie said, what do you think about the things they said they were going to implement? I believe it was all kinds of testing methods. Yeah, I mean, it's things they should have done in the first place. Right? You know, let's do it on a much smaller scale, right? Everybody here has a home of some sorts, right? Whether you live by yourself, whether you live with roommates, whether you live with your parents, you exist in a domicile somewhere. Somebody breaks into your house, or actually not even breaks into your house. Somebody comes to your house, the door is unlocked, they open the door, they walk in, they steal all your most valuable possessions and walk out. In your after action review, you sit there and say, well, you know what? From here on out, we're going to lock the doors. Don't you think somebody's going to look at that and be like, well, if you were worried about theft, why didn't you lock the doors in the first place? That's what this is like. That's what this is like. What do you mean you're going to implement some testing methods? You're telling me that you didn't implement some testing methods before? Well, we kind of did, but we really didn't. So you have to like put that in perspective, that when you read those remediations, whether they do it or not, the fact that they said they were going to do it begs the question, were you not doing it in the first place? There's that one. Yeah, there's that one. Yeah. the one from Cali. Yeah, that one from Cali. Yeah, that one. Should they be held liable for multiple billions of dollars of downtime? I did see, because, you know, the internet's full of people who instantly become experts whenever any type of global thing happens in the world, right? Don't you love how the internet does that? Don't you love how the internet produces the most capable experts after any tragedy happens? Everybody is a legal expert. Everybody's a ballistics expert. Everybody's a forensics expert. Everybody's an economic expert. Everybody's a geopolitical expert whenever any type of event happens. Let's just caveat that. I did see one of these internet geniuses produce some actually valuable legalese view of the EULA that companies sign, the end user license agreement that companies sign when they agree to utilize the CrowdStrike software. And they said, with facts given, that the EULA is actually pretty tight. I can't find the tweet. If I find the tweet, actually, did I send the tweet to Carmen? I can't remember if I sent the tweet to Carmen or not. I'd have to look and see if I sent the tweet to Carmen. But I do remember seeing the tweet where somebody went through the EULA line by line and basically did an analysis of the EULA to basically be like, yeah, CrowdStrike's completely covered from this. You can do nothing about it. And so I think this is the, right, when we talk about our CISO hats, right, when we talk about our risk, posture hats, this is kind of the danger, and I use danger loosely, of having a lot of SaaS-based software in an enterprise when you're a security team. One of the biggest things that most people put inside of their EULA, and it's pretty standard to put this inside of a EULA, right, is that you will hold the company non-liable for any damages that are there. One of the things that I thought was really surprising in the CrowdStrike EULA, the CrowdStrike EULA explicitly says, get this, folks, check this shit out. The CrowdStrike EULA explicitly says that it is not recommended to put CrowdStrike on sensitive or critical systems. Explicitly. Think about that for a second. That is lawyers at their finest. That is legalese at its finest. Do all of you understand why that is in a EULA? Drop it in chat if you think you understand why that is inside of an end user license agreement. Right? That is inside of an end user license agreement so that if you put it on, I don't know, say the air traffic control system, and then something happens and that air traffic control system becomes unusable and it becomes a national emergency, you can't sue CrowdStrike and say, well, I put this on my air traffic control system, your software broke it, you brought down the entire air traffic control system of the United States of America, therefore we're going to sue you for billions of dollars. When in fact, do you think for 1 second that a CrowdStrike salesperson wasn't in there saying you should put this on all of your critical systems to guarantee that they'll never be hacked by an adversary? Right? That's where they get you. That's one of the things that I think you should be like, if you're thinking about this from a practical perspective, think about your enterprise risk posture. Think about the SaaS applications that you use internally, where you use them at, the EULAs that you've already agreed to, and the fact that you are completely unable to sue any. So when I complain about third-party risk management, do I hear Jerry screaming in the distance because I mentioned third-party risk management again? Oh, Jerry, I'm summoning you with my TPRM. When I complain about TPRM being absolutely useless, this is why. Because at no point in time was somebody going to not sign a CrowdStrike deal because their security teams are saying, no, we have to have CrowdStrike. We have to have the best DDR. We have to be able to protect the enterprise. Our entire PCI DSS system must have malware protection on it. Sign this EULA. They sign the EULA, systems get bricked, all of a sudden you can't sue. What the F is the point of TPRM if you're just going to give companies the ability to escape liability in the first place? And this gets back to what Jake asked when we talked about whether CrowdStrike was going to make people realize that they put efforts in cybersecurity. No, because we downplay and we underplay things like EULA and their cybersecurity impact in an organization. It turned into a little bit of a mini soapbox right there because like I struggle. Anybody have kids? Those of you who have kids, this will probably relate. This will probably relate to a lot of you that have kids, right? If you ever had a kid who's like looking at a hot stove, right, or something dangerous, stupid, and you ever seen a kid reach up for a hot stove? You're like, don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to regret doing that. Or the cat, right? Don't play with the cat. Cat's going to scratch you. Don't do it. And you're telling the kid, don't do it. Don't do it. And then all of a sudden, bam. They touch the hot stove, they get a burnt hand, the cat scratches them in the face, and you're like, I told you so. I told you so. Like, that's how I feel sometimes with where we're at in cybersecurity. Right? We have the best intentions in this industry. We do have the best intentions in this industry, but we shoot ourselves in the foot so many times. And we do it to ourselves. So no, I don't think anybody's, I mean, listen, let's define accountability essence. I don't think there will be the accountability that everybody thinks there should be, right? In this world, money talks. Their stock took a massive hit. They were rocket shipping as a company from a stock perspective, and they have taken a massive hit. Jeff Goals, if you remember Jeff Goals from Old Guy Wednesday, we will have Jeff come back. I do want Jeff to come back. We have if you remember last year, when actually it's been about a year. I've got to check in with Jeff and find out how the stock's doing. But last year when Congress passed the law that said that all companies, or not Congress, but SEC passed a law that said all companies have to report a material cybersecurity incident on their 10Ks. The first company to do that was Vans. They secretly did it on a Friday, and they had talked about having a material cybersecurity incident that had affected their manufacturing process. Their stock went down, I think almost 50% after that incident. Well, Jeff and I have been tracking that stock for a year to see about how long it takes for their stock to recover. Because I think that's truly going to be the only indicator as to whether companies start to take cybersecurity or the impacts that they have on organizations seriously, is the impact of the stock price. And so if anybody wants a long-term project, I highly encourage you to do the same thing. Find the stock price of CrowdStrike the day before this incident happened, so last Thursday. Look at the stock price at its lowest after the incident. And then for the next 12 months, watch the stock price. This doesn't have to be something you do every day. Put it on your calendar once a month, monthly reminder, check the price of the stock, right? Just track the stock price. See how long it takes for the stock price to recover. I have a socioeconomic theory that the longer it takes a company's stock to recover from a cybersecurity related event, the more serious they will take cybersecurity in the future. And it sucks. Trust me, it sucks that it has to be that way. But that is my theory. That is definitely my theory. I think I hit all the high points on the CrowdStrike stuff. If I missed any of the high points on the CrowdStrike stuff, let me know. If there's something specific around the CrowdStrike stuff that I didn't talk about, that you wanted to hear me talk about, please, bring that up. But gave you lots of things to think about and dissect when it comes to CrowdStrike. So I've been dying to tell this, but I as you can tell, like I get caught up, answering questions and things like that. I mentioned it briefly. So first and foremost, I got some new coasters. Why the fuck is Neil talking about coasters on Tea with a Hacker? Because Carmen got them for me. Because she loves me. So I have to share the coasters that Carmen got for me. I got little golf coasters for my desk. I'm happy about that. But anyway, thank Carmen for my little golf coasters. I love it. Last Friday, I was out on the golf course during the whole CrowdStrike fiasco. I want to talk a little bit. This is related a little bit to the coaching stuff, that was mentioned before. And one of the things I always encourage folks, and I've always encouraged you to do, as a matter of fact, we have an entire dedicated channel for it in Discord. If you're not in our Discord, make sure you hit that exclamation point Discord in chat. I'll copy this and I'll send this over to LinkedIn for the folks who are on LinkedIn and the folks that are on YouTube, just in case. Make sure you're in our Discord, because we do have an entire channel in Discord dedicated to goal setting. And this is something else I talk frequently about on stream, but I also talk about it in my coaching sessions with folks, which is about goal setting. Goal setting is incredibly important, right? Goal setting helps you to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. Callie, whether it's content creation, cybersecurity, folks who are trying to get in the cybersecurity industry, setting goals is important. Whether you're studying for something new, setting goals is important. Whether you're on a career path from an analyst to a manager to an executive, setting goals is important. And so I oftentimes talk about a goal setting process, and we could talk about what it means to set goals if that's important to you, but what does this have to do with golf? At the beginning of the year, I set a couple of goals for myself. One of the goals that I set for myself was to place in the top 10 of the state championship. Well, the state championship is next Friday. We're going to be participating in the state championship, so I'm super excited for that. That's going to be an opportunity for us to capitalize on one of the goals that we set for ourselves. One of the other goals that I set for myself was I was going to win 2 tournaments this year. So last year I won 1 tournament. This year the goal that I set for myself was to win 2 tournaments. Well, we achieved that goal in May when I won my second tournament down at Crow Creek. Then I won a 3rd tournament. I was kind of quiet about that one. I didn't talk about that one too much because it was a smaller tournament. It's a smaller venue. I didn't talk about that one, but I won my 3rd tournament 3 weeks ago. And then last week I won my 4th tournament. I defended my title last week at a golf course called Quail Ridge. That was the one where I won my first tournament last year at. So the tournament that I won my first ever tournament win last year, I defended that title last Friday. And so I apologize for no tea with a hacker last week, and I apologize for being out of the loop on the CrowdStrike stuff last week. But last week, I was defending my title at Quail Ridge, and I'm happy to report that I've gotten my 4th win for the year. So doubling my goal of getting 2 wins for this year. And that's super exciting for me, not just because I accomplished my goal, but I smashed it out of the park. And then next week's a huge week as well, because next week we go to state championship, and we get to go try for our second New Year's resolution, our second New Year's goal, which was to place in the top 10 for state championship. So I want to thank all of you for your support as always. Like I know that golf has been a new conversation introduction for us as we've talked about things. But golf has helped me in a lot of ways. Personally, it's helped me deal with cancer. It's helped me put things in perspective when it comes to being a better CISO, being a better streamer, being a better, cyber practitioner. And I'm super happy for all your support. I really appreciate all of that. I think that there's lots more that I kind of talk about when it comes to golf. I've got a huge tournament this weekend. So tomorrow I go compete in the RDU Open. This will be one of the biggest competitive events that I've ever competed in the RDU Open. I'm nervous. There are going to be a lot of really great golfers there. I am definitely not the best golfer that will be there, and I'm trying not to mentally think about that. And I'm just going to go and compete and see what it's like to compete on a bigger stage. And then in 30 days, I got an invite to come compete at the RDU Masters. Again, another high profile event that I do not think that I'm even remotely qualified for. But I'm excited to have gotten the invite, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to put my best foot forward in doing so. What incremental milestones did you set and complete in a way to tackle these big goals? Thank you, Seminole, for this question. This is huge. I appreciate this. And I think as you're listening to this, when you're listening to this, I want to make sure we frame this appropriately. You're not bothering me. No, please don't ever think you're bothering me. You're absolutely not bothering me. Oh, you're fucking offering promotions. Get the fuck out of my channel. Get the fuck out of my channel. I just saw you not bothering me. Damn it. That's what I see. Thank you, whoever did that. As you're listening to me talk about incremental milestones and goals, I talk about this because I think it's important for you to understand how I'm accomplishing this so that you can apply it to yourself and your goals. Right? The reason that I talk about golf, and I want to make sure to frame this appropriately for those who are listening, right? The reason I talk about golf is because like I don't have the same goals now as a CISO that I did when I was kind of your age, right? I don't, you know, I'm not studying to get into the industry. I'm not trying to study for a cert. I'm not trying to break in. You know, I'm not trying to go for OSCP. And so sometimes it's hard for some folks to understand how I can possibly relate to them. And so when I talk about golf being made me a better streamer, golf was something which can be related to what some of you all are going through, right? I've been in cyber my entire life. My entire life has been cyber. It's about as far away from sports as you could get, right? Sitting in this chair has been my entire life, right? Even in the military, like I wasn't very athletic in the military. Those of you who know the Air Force are probably laughing and shaking your head and being like, yep, I know that. Like, it's just not something that is common in our industry. And so making the decision to basically do 180 degrees, right? And go be an athlete and go play golf. Not only go play golf, but to try to have a goal of being a professional golfer, which like less than you have a better chance of going to be a red teamer in cybersecurity than I have of going to be a professional golfer. Make no mistake about it. You have a better chance of getting into this industry as a pen tester or red teamer. You know how cynical I am on that than I have of becoming a professional golfer. Right? And so I use my roadmap. I use my roadmap about going to be a professional golfer so that you can understand that I can relate to the goals that you have of going from a real estate agent into cyber, a factory worker into cyber. Orcs, good to see you. Glad to see you, Jess, right? An MP in the Army to cyber, right? They're about as far apart as you can get. And so that's the reason I bring up my journeys with you, is so that you can understand the things that I've gone to accomplish to go from being in cyber to being a professional golfer. I have every intent of leaving this industry. I have every intent of leaving this industry and going to play professional golf. I'll never leave you, right? But I want to go play professional golf. And so I want to share with you the things that I'm doing to get there and the milestones and the achievements and how I'm doing it so that you can understand, hopefully in an analogous way, how you can achieve the same thing for your goals, for your career goals. And so back to the question, what incremental milestones did you set and complete along the way to tackle those big goals? That's huge. Incremental milestones are massive, right? So what did I do? I knew, first and foremost, was when I set the goals at the beginning of the year, I was honest with myself. I got a win because the field was small. My first win a year ago at Quail Ridge was because the field was small. It was the end of the season. Nobody was competing for points. The state championship had already happened. And so I didn't have a whole lot of competition. I'm not so proud to admit it. I'm not so proud to admit it. Absolutely. And so because the field was small, you can ask what my golf handicap is. Absolutely. I don't mind that. So because the field was small, I got a win. but it was enough for me to taste what it was like to win, which is why I also encourage you all to find those small wins so that you can feel what it's like to have that sensation of winning. That's what set the stage for me to make that promise to myself in January that I was going to get 2 wins this year. And when I looked back on the win that I had, I evaluated my performance on that win and I said, okay, what are the things I need to accomplish to repeat that or better this year? One of the first things that I did to myself was I acknowledged that I needed to play and practice more. The equivalent for you would be that acknowledgement that you need to study more, that you need to do more rooms on Try Hack Me, that you need to watch more YouTube videos, that you need to tune into Cybersecurity some more, that you needed to interact with your peers on Discord some more. You have to first acknowledge, this is key, I want you to listen to this. You have to acknowledge that if there's somewhere else you'd rather be, you have to be different than you are today. You have to be somebody else than who you are today if there's somewhere else you'd rather be tomorrow. You cannot get to where you want to be tomorrow by doing the exact same things that you're doing today. That is an unequivocal fact. You are where you are today because of who you are right now. And so if you want to be somewhere different, then you have to be somewhere different. And for me, I knew that I had to play more golf, I had to fail more often, and I had to practice harder. And so that's what I did. That is what I did. I set up a practice routine. We converted one of the rooms in our house to a golf simulator so that I didn't have to leave the house to practice golf. I decided to have a gym routine where I went to the gym multiple days a week, not to get stronger, but to learn how to be an athlete. Because it had been so long since I'd understood what it took to be an athlete. I had to change who I was so that I could walk into a winner's mentality. And so I'd say that's the first thing. If you're thinking about what you have to do to get into cyber, you have to be different than who you are today. Everybody is in different places. Everybody has different goals and objectives. Everybody has different milestones that they're at today. So to be somewhere different, you have to change who you are today. Once I realized that, those were the milestones that I set for myself. I was going to participate in X number of events. I decided that I was going to participate in more than 2 events per month, and that I was going to take my competition more seriously, and that competition resulted in more milestones. And those milestones took the form of I wanted more top 10 finishes. If you watch my social media account, and I appreciate that. Follow my social media account. Follow my Instagram for a lot of my golf stuff, right? I posted my losses, but I posted a lot of top 10. I posted a lot of top 3 finishes, right? Just close. A lot of second places, a lot of third places, but I posted those because those were milestones. The milestones were I was going to finish in the top 5, right? And that's what I did, was I finished in the top 5. Because if I could finish in the top 5, I was only a handful of strokes off from finishing first. I focused on the things that I was deficient at. I went to the chipping and the putting range, and I got to where I could make 100 putts from 5 feet. I chipped into a hula hoop at 20 yards 50 times, where every ball landed inside the hula hoop. Setting small milestones that are achievable, that are related to things that are in your control. Focus on that for a second. Focus on the milestones that are within your control. They don't rely on the job market. They don't rely on another company. They don't rely on money. They are within your control. That would be the key thing that I would tell you, is that when you set those milestones up, focus on the ones that are within your control. Once you focus on the ones that are within your control, you can absolutely achieve your goals. So my goal for the rest of the year, finish out the VGA season, state championship next week. Hopefully we make it to regionals. I have to be in the top 10 to make it to regionals. We'll see where it goes from there. Finish these major RDU tournaments, and then we'll reevaluate our goals for next year and see where we need to go for next year. You can absolutely ask me where my handicap is. I'm not super embarrassed by it. I also think that handicap is one of those things, just like, I think that handicap is one of those things that is, it's like your percentage on Try Hack Me. It's like your percentage on Try Hack Me. It is important. It is a milestone that helps you see your successes and your failures. But I also want you to understand it's something that's relative. For those who don't know, the handicap system in golf is an app on my phone. And before I show my handicap score, it's an app like this, where I can hit that little red button to post a score, and I can post any score I want. I could post that I shot in the 50s if I wanted to. Right? And so it relies on a lot of integrity to be honest about your handicap score. So let's put that in perspective first and foremost, right? It requires you to be a person of integrity to put it in there. And so I'll show you. My handicap score is a 13. Just to put that in perspective, last year at this time, my handicap was a 30-something. So in 1 year, I've cut my handicap in half. I'm effectively 3 strokes away from being in the single digits on the handicap. And I'm happy to show, there's usually like as their stats page, there's usually like 2024 scores. There used to be like this cool little chart that it would show. Can't find it now. Oh, handicap history. Yeah. So when I started keeping my handicap last year, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. When I started keeping my handicap last year, 25.5. It was higher than that when I started playing tournaments in April. But last year was when I started keeping my handicap, and I was 25.5. And so in 1 year, I've shaved my handicap off by half. And I'm super proud of that. I don't let anybody begrudge me for it. I'll take anybody out to the golf course. I'd love to play with people who are better than me, and I love to play with people who are worse than me. Absolutely. And if you're going to knock me for having a 13 handicap, then come on out and show me what your handicap is. And I'd love to see what it is that makes you a better handicap than me. And maybe there's something I can learn from you, and I welcome that opportunity. I just saw Whoopian said he was leaving. He was bouncing out, but I did want to say I have not survived cancer yet. We're still in the fight, but I do have hopefully a biopsy coming up soon, where we will get a clean bill of health. I'll tell you this scary story about this. My tumor was right here in my belly. And it was probably the size of a softball when I first got diagnosed with cancer. I can't feel it anymore. I shit you not, I would lay in bed and I could push on my stomach and I could feel this softball in my tummy. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we're on the mend. We'll get there soon. We'll get there soon. But thank you for asking. I don't have any problem talking about it. I love to answer your questions about it. All right. This is a good one. I talk about this one pretty frequently as well. What's your stance on the mass layoffs over the 18 to 24 months in the marketplace? The job market's rough. Like, listen, the job market is crazy rough. If you don't understand that, like this is why I tell people, like, now is not the time to be hunting for a job. Now is the time to be hunkered down. Now is the time to be like fortifying yourself, because now is not the time to be looking for a job. The mass layoffs aren't what's important about what's happened over the last 12 to 24 months. Layoffs happen. If you don't realize, whether you're in cyber, manufacturing, law enforcement, wherever, you are just an item on a P&L. You are just an item on a P&L. Balaj, I saw your question before. It's been added to the queue. Don't ask it again or you're going to get timed out. You are just a number on a P&L. And it doesn't matter whether you're in cyber. Like make no mistake about it. Cyber might be important, and everybody acknowledges that cyber is important. But that doesn't make you immune to being laid off. I don't think, and when people ask me what my thoughts are on layoffs, sometimes people are like, do you think the cyber industry is dying, or do you think there's no more need for cyber folks? No, that's not what that means. The reason that layoffs are happening is because you're a P&L item and people need to shave money. When this would happen, like I've had to do layoffs in the past. I've done layoffs before. You know how that happens? Your boss or HR, or your combination of your boss and HR, they come to you and they say, Neil, we got to trim 15% of the workforce. That's what they tell you. We have to trim 15% of the workforce. Therefore, I need you to identify 3, 5, 10, whatever your contribution of that is. You need to identify 3 people that you're willing to let go. That's it. That's how that happens. Somebody looked at you and said, of the people that I have to keep, you aren't one of them. Make no mistake about it. That's how layoffs happen. If Matt came to me today and said, hey, Neil, I'm sorry, we got to let you go, I don't take it personally. They are running out of money and they made a decision to let me go. That's not the case. That's not an indication of what's happening. But that's what you have to realize, is that it is a financial decision as a company to say, we have to let you go. It's not personal. For the first part of recovering from layoffs is to acknowledge that it's not personal. It's just business. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. I'm sorry if you feel like you want to be part of the family and you've grown roots and you've got emotional ties. Everybody does. But it's not personal. It's just business. And I think this is the right question coming out of the YouTube folks, is how can you fortify yourself against it? That's the right question. That's what all of you should be asking. All of you should be asking yourself, what do I do to prepare myself? Content is a great way to prepare yourself. We talked about content at the beginning part of the stream, right? People who know you, like look at AJ, right? AJ got laid off from ZeroFox. But AJ's out there in the space. He's talking to people. He's got a podcast that he does. He interviews people. Do you think it's really going to be hard for AJ to find a job? I mean, it probably will a little bit, but not as hard as somebody who doesn't have a name for themselves. right? You have to build resilience. You have to fortify yourself by making yourself valuable, by making your voice valuable, by making your opinions valuable, by making the skills that you have valuable. Remember, I think one of the underlying parts of this question is a thought that you have to make yourself valuable in your organization. You have to fortify yourself against it in your organization. Here's a shit answer that some of you aren't going to like. If you want to fortify yourself inside your organizations, don't think that you can follow this Zoomer or this millennial trend of quiet quitting. Oh, I'm just going to like sit here and do my job. I'm not going to go above and beyond. You want to know why you can't do that? Because there is somebody out there right now who is laid off who will absolutely go above and beyond because they're tired of being unemployed. Hopefully that smacks some of you in the face. Those of you who are like, well, I only want to find jobs that, I can do remote work. Where's Bayou Beast at? He's probably at work. Where's Matt at? Right? Bayou Beast uprooted his life in Louisiana to move to Arkansas. Arkansas, y'all. The armpit of America. Hopefully nobody hears from Arkansas. Because he was willing to do it for the job. Arkansas equals Pirate Kansas. That's a good one. Right? Do you think that he had an opportunity to go build the life of his dream in Arkansas and was like, nah, you know what? If it's not remote, I don't want it. How stupid do you think he would have been if he had said that? So part of fortifying yourself is realizing, back to what I said before, sometimes you have to change who you are right now for the person you want to be tomorrow. Right? This is a misplaced question, Agent Legion. How do we become so valuable that employers can't justify letting us go in the first place? Let's talk about this. This is important. This is important. You're not going to like the answer to this question. You will never be so valuable that an employer can't justify letting you go. Every single one of you is replaceable. You have to recognize that. Everybody is replaceable. You will never be able, listen, would you go into a relationship where you're being extorted and held hostage? A company isn't going to let you hold them hostage. As a matter of fact, one of the rounds of layoffs that I've done in my career, the CISO I worked for was told that an employee was so valuable because they were a single point of all this information. The CISO very intently leaned forward and said, I will not be held hostage for your failure as a leader to democratize the expertise of your team. Sounds harsh, but that is a very real stance. If a leader has failed to democratize the expertise on the team and create resiliency and redundancy in an organization, that does not fortify you from layoffs. So don't think for a second that just by hoarding information, you're going to be the single source of all things and you're irreplaceable. Yeah. Never base your self-worth on your employment. At all. Ever. That's the right answer. Boom, you hit the nail on the head. God, see, look at this. Some of you are so smart. I absolutely love it. You can hear what I'm saying and you can understand it. Right? It's becoming so valuable that any employer would take you in a heartbeat if you were interested. Once you desensitize yourself, to the business decisions, there was when I first started in the pen testing space after I got out of the military, this was an interesting conversation. This was interesting for me when I left the military in 2013 and I got out into the space. I made some pretty bold statements when I was first releasing content back in the day, because I would tell people all my tricks of the trade. I had no problem. I was doing purple teaming long before purple teaming was ever a concept. Long before purple teaming was ever. I wrote about it ad nauseum. Go search red teaming part DUEX. It was one of the first articles I wrote about purple teaming back before it was ever a concept, right? I had no problem sharing and democratizing the things I had learned over the years. And I got a lot of flack from people in the pen testing community because they're like, Neil, what are you doing? You're telling all of our secrets. What are you doing? If you tell everybody how it is that you do it and what it is that you do, then everybody can be at the same level as you. And it took me back, because I was like, how can you think like that? How can you think that just because I told you how a watch works, that you can go out and do watch repair? That you could go out and build a watch from scratch? Right? Just because I told you how a watch works, in some cases, doesn't even mean that you can understand how to tell time. If you value your self-worth because you have answers that nobody else has, you're creating a false sense of security to think that nobody else could figure it out. Your value comes in the world realizing how smart you are. Your value comes in realizing that you're willing to democratize across your team. Your value comes in the realization that they can hire you and depend on you to make the team as a whole better. And so, yes, the value that you have, and I'll tell you this, if you haven't realized it, you'll know your value because there'll be somebody waiting in the wings to pick you up when you're tired of being where it is that you're at now, or when where you're at right now is tired of having you. Think about that for a second. I don't say this to brag, but I give you an example of this. I haven't applied for a job in 10 plus years. I applied for a job when I got out of the military in 2013. I applied for a job when I left that job to go to the next one that happened after that, the MSP out of Ann Arbor. And I have not applied for a job since then. And it was because I made myself valuable and seen by the industry, so that when the time came, somebody was there to pick me up. That's a goal that I think every single one of you should achieve towards. Don't make yourself don't try to find this mentality that says, I'm going to make myself so valuable, I'm never going to leave. That is a false sense of security that you'll never be able to achieve. And the first time it happens to you, it will crush your ego, because you'll be like, what did I do wrong? Why did they let me go? Why wasn't I good enough to stay there? And that's not what you need to be successful in your career. Great question. Great line of thought. I truly do appreciate that. I've ignored LinkedIn a little bit. Let me head over to LinkedIn and see if I think there were some questions that were going on in LinkedIn. I apologize for folks on LinkedIn for that one. Bader says, which recognized certification you recommend where we can learn useful and meaningful things? That's a question that's headed in the right direction, Bader, but I would say follow what it is that, first evaluate what it is that you don't know, and then find the cert that covers the topics you don't know, and that's how you make the decision on that. Failing forward is what I've heard. Absolutely love this message. Just spoke to my fiance about this yesterday. Absolutely fail forward. Fail forward. I love that message. Depending on the job, working 150% is not enough and can be expected to do 200% all the time with no pay raise, etc. So yeah, the Zoomer millennial comment is invalid, but it can sometimes be a bad thing, and it's best to not stay. Not disagreeing with you, but I'm just showing the other side. Some places trying to be irreplaceable means going above and beyond and is not enough, but you have to work crazy. So first and foremost, Deshard, I appreciate you disagreeing with me. I love when people disagree with me. That serves as a fantastic reminder where if you hear anything that I say and you disagree with it, please drop it into chat, because I love to go back and forth with chat on things you disagree with. So please absolutely go for it. Working at 150% is not enough and can be expected to do 200% all the time. I absolutely agree with you on that. Consulting is a fantastic example of this. For those who aren't aware of the consulting mentality, right? Consulting, consulting is based on utilization. If you didn't know this, let's talk about it for a second, right? Consulting is based on utilization. You as a person, you as a human, there are only so many hours in a month that you are available to work. And if you go by the 40-hour work week, there are only technically 160 hours available for you to work in a 1-month time period. 160 hours, that's it. And so when a consulting company looks at you, they look at you and they say, Neil, there's 160 hours technically I can get out of you. What's the rate per hour that I can charge for you where I make up my money to have to pay your salary, right? So if you're $100 an hour, right, then that's only 160 times 100. Somebody who's better than math with me, what's that, $16,000 a month? That's $160,000 a year of salary. I don't know. Somebody who's better with month figured this out, right? Whatever that is, that means that you have to make less than that for a company to have a margin on what it is that they're paying you, right? You can do that math. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore and already have by doing math live on stream. So what he's talking about here, what Deshard is talking about, right, is consulting companies look at your utilization metrics and compare you to your peers, right? So if you've got two consultants right beside each other, they both have the same 160 hours, but consultant A decides to quiet quit and only work 160 hours of utilization because they value work-life balance, because they value their time off, they value their family, they value themselves, right? And so they choose to only work 40 hours a week. Consultant number 2 thinks or has a belief that if they work 150%, right? So 20 extra hours, 60 hours a week, 240 hours a month, that if they work that extra 150%, they're going to get ahead of consultant number 1. The consulting company loves that about you. The consulting company loves analyst number 2 because they're getting more utilization, which means more money, which means more value out of what they thought they were going to get out of you in the first place. And so, of course, they're going to continue to use you, and they're going to continue to utilize that resource. And yes, there is a mentality that says, well, how long can we wait before we promote them? Because once they promote you, they have to give you a pay raise. And once they give you a pay raise, their margin shrinks. And if their margin shrinks, then they have to charge more rate per hour for you. And it just cascades down through the business model. So take this message, clip this. If you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, clip this message and repeat it so that you understand this. That yes, sometimes you can work 150% or 200%. You're not going to get promoted. You're not going to get a pay raise, and the company's not incentivized to do so. You know why? Back to the fundamental thing I talked about when we first talked about this is because of business. Who do you think that if the company had to come down and say you have to slash 50% of your consultants, who do you think the company is going to cut first? Consultant A, who works 40 hours at 100% utilization, or consultant B that works 150% of utilization? Who do you think, when they look at you on a spreadsheet and you're nothing but a number, who do you think they're going to cut first? It's a no-brainer. It is business. It is business. Right? That's why I tell you, don't necessarily associate yourself and your success to what's happening in the workforce. God, there's lots of good questions today. Man, we've got lots of good ones. Let's see if we can do some rapid fire questions super fast. Get your questions in. Get your questions in. Hey, Neil, I wanted to ask you a question regards starting in cyber. I'm working in IT support for a big company for 1 year and on the way to finishing my A+. What projects do you recommend I run at home in order to get the best work practice, ethic, and experience? I love this. This actually came up also. Thank you, Winter Jolt, for this one before the stream ever started. I was remiss to hit this one before, but it's around projects. Instead of talking about certs, let's talk about projects. And this is a fantastic question. This is a fantastic way to look at things. Projects are awesome, right? And if you go on LinkedIn, if you go check out the resume stuff that I've got on LinkedIn. Oh, that reminds me. I pressed that button, but I didn't actually mean to press that button. I'll remember that one for later though. There's lots of stuff inside of our career advice playlist over on LinkedIn that you should take a look at. That talks about putting projects on your LinkedIn and on your resume. Find projects that challenge yourself. Find projects that interest you, but find projects that challenge yourself. You know, there are tons of great projects out there. Things like, you know, if you're interested in honeypotting, go build Teapot. If there's a mod or a VIP, Callie, if you're still there, if you're still listening, can you find the link for the Teapot honeypot that we built on stream a couple years ago? This was one that we built on stream where we, hey, Base Case, it's good to see you, man. Have a good one. You know, we built a Teapot honeypot live on stream, and then that's a fantastic way for you to get an introduction to building a server from scratch, because they've got instructions on how to build an EC2 or to how to stand it up in DigitalOcean on a dedicated VPS. They also have container instructions. So boom, that's a fantastic way for you to get experience on how to build a container. But then once it's built, you have to run it. Now that you're running it, you get to look at a honeypot and honeypot operations. You get to see the different types of honeypots that exist out there, and then you get to see the types of information, right, that those honeypots collect. Absolutely fix it 42, and because you stream fix it, make a stream out of it. Make a YouTube video out of it, right? Because you have to do a YouTube video or a stream on what is Teapot, right? How do you follow the instructions? How do you execute the instructions that are there? And then what do you do with the information that exists? Like, what does it mean when you're getting hammered with all of these particular types of attempts? What's cool about Honeypot is that it runs on an elastic backend, right? And so what is elastic? Elastic is a SIM. Oh, wait a minute. Now you're getting Honeypot information. Now you're also getting you know, how to do server administration, server operations, but now you have access to Elastic, and now you get to practice SIEM operations. What's it like to be in an Elastic console and do searches in Elastic? Cool part two, Teapot allows you to do distributed honeypots. And so now you could run a distributed architecture with a centralized SIEM. So now you can do this. Those are the ways that you think about the project idea. Right? That's how you need to think about this idea of the projects that you go through and how to use those projects to find new ways to see the cyber world, right? There's other ways to do that. Cyberdefenders.org, I absolutely love this. Right? Cyberdefenders.org has a ton of VMs that you can download. You download those VMs and then you practice them. They're everything from forensics to there's Splunk instances. There's old Boss of the Socks. You see this poster right over here? Right? Boss of the Sock. This is Splunk's version of giving you prepackaged versions of Splunk and threat cases and basically giving you self-contained challenges on how you can go solve those threat cases. So what better way to learn how to do SIEM operations? I got you. It's this one right here. I'll drop it here. Thanks, Fix It. I got links turned off for non-VIPs, but I'll drop these into the respective chats. Right? Fantastic opportunity for you to go and get access to VMs that allow you to practice those things. When it comes to projects, don't overcomplicate the project thought process. The project thought process should really be about answering the question you have in your head, which is, what is it that I don't know? Or what would I love to learn more of? And I know that sounds self-explanatory, but that's really as simple as it is. Find a gap in your knowledge and ask yourself, how do I go about finding the answers to that gap in my knowledge? But I think everybody should be doing projects, and I'm gonna delete that one. That's a warning. Don't try to circumvent the URL filtering on my stream, or you'll get a ban. That's a warning. Don't test me. Don't test me. I think everybody should be out there doing projects, right? Every day. Like, back to the question about, like, how do you do those milestones? I understand inquisitive minds. Don't inquisit on my stream. Don't be inquisitive on my stream. When I say don't be inquisitive, I understand the inquisitive minds. I really do. Your inquisitiveness turns into somebody else's maliciousness. Everybody should be out there doing those projects, and everybody should be going down that rabbit hole as much as possible. Everybody should be going down that rabbit hole as much as possible, because that rabbit hole is what's gonna, when we talk about cyber, there's a mentality on cyber that I think is hard to teach. You hear it referred to as critical thinking, right? How do we teach critical thinking? When we go to certs, when we talk about cert programs, we talk about degree programs, we talk about stuff like that, they don't teach you critical thinking. They teach you tactics, techniques, procedures. They teach you knowledge. They teach you things like that. They don't teach you critical thinking. I think projects help you with critical thinking. Let me say that again. I think projects help with critical thinking. So I do think you should go out there and you should find those projects. And I think you should try to put yourselves into situations that are hard for you to answer questions. Because the difficulty, finding the answers to difficult questions helps you with critical thinking. That's what I think the main value of projects are, is to help you with critical thinking. Love it. Love it. I'll do this one. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit, Tay, because I know you, because you've been around for a few years. And you always ask this question. And I'm gonna answer it differently. I'm gonna answer it differently than I have for you in the past. I want everybody to understand that I'm gonna answer this question to Tay, because Tay shows up in my DMs a lot. I appreciate him because he asks me how I'm doing on a daily basis. He does, and I appreciate him for that. But at the same time, you ask me this question all the time, and I'm going to answer it differently for you today than I have in the past. So be ready. Hopefully you're ready for this answer. Maybe you're not. You've been in this community for 3 or 4 years. You've sat in on my streams relentlessly. I know you're in Jerry's streams. I know you're in a lot of people's streams. And you talk about the things that you're doing to be better. You talk about the successes you have in your career, but then you ask yourself, maybe I'm not cut out for this industry. You ask yourself that on a daily, if not monthly basis when you show up in my DMs. Maybe you're not. Did you ever think about that? Part of growing as an individual, part of growing in your pursuits is maybe acknowledging that you're not cut out for something. Think about that for a second. There is a mentality that says, no, I'm going to bash my head against a wall 99 times because the 100th time I'm going to be successful. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what if I'm not successful the 100th time? Should I quit on the 101st? There's a I keep this poster around, this hustle, not the cat one. Point at the right, this one. This hustle poster right here. I keep this hustle poster around, and sometimes people get mistaken that hustle means you run at your goal no matter what. You're that 150%er. You're always giving everything you've got. But maybe hustling is also about acknowledging that something isn't right for you. Now, make no mistake, I believe anybody can do anything ever. I mean, I just got done telling you guys that I got a goal that I'm going to go to the PGA. Has it ever crossed my mind that I'm not going to make it to the PGA? And the answer is yes. Frequently. Okay, probably as much as you've thought about whether you're cut out for this industry or not. Is there a possibility that I might not make it to the PGA? Absolutely. Do I dwell on that? No. Do I fight every ounce of conviction that I have to push those thoughts down and not let them define my measure of success? You goddamn right I do. Every day. You know why? Because my why for being a PGA professional is stronger than my fear. If you ask yourself daily, if you're not cut out for this industry, and you can't push that fear down, and you're going to let that fear overcome you, you're not cut out for this industry. You have to be stronger than your fear. Your why has to be stronger than the pain that it goes through to deal with this. You have to want it as bad as you want to breathe. Just telling you, like, you being cut out for the industry doesn't have anything to do with the industry. It has everything to do with you. I mean that, bottom of my heart. Everybody who hears my voice now for the last 4 years of streaming has the aptitude and the capability to be anything they want to. A hacker, a pen tester, a threat hunter, an incident responder, a GRC person, a CISO. The same that I have the possibility of being a professional PGA player. But if you're not stronger than your fear, if your why isn't stronger than your fears, then you're not cut out for it. You as a person, it has nothing to do with the industry. And so take that back. Take that question back and stop asking it. If you listen, the world gives you, like, this is going to sound like, I want you guys to understand something. This is going to be a small soapbox, right? The world has no problem giving you everything it is that you want. But at the same time, you have to realize that the world will match your energy. The world around you will match your energy. And so if you put negativity, if you put doubt out there, if you question every day the things the world gives you, the world's going to question you back. The world's going to fear you back. The world's going to put that fear inside of you. The world's going to give you the negative energy that you put out in the world. Listen, I wholeheartedly believe this, and that is one of the reasons why I've taken a very positive take to my cancer. Do you know my stance on my cancer? My stance on my cancer, my stance on this cancer very much is, if I have to have cancer, and if I have to talk about how I got cancer, if I have to talk about the strength and the struggles that I've had to go through to defeat this, and if that strength and struggle helps save somebody's life, which I've known from people who've messaged me in my DM that I've saved at least half a dozen lives through my cancer journey. If that is a burden I have to bear, then I welcome it with open arms. I will treasure it. I will carry that boulder, and I'll be damn happy every day for the opportunity to do so. You know why? Because I know that if I had lamented about it, if I had been down on myself about it, if I had lived in negativity and disdain and bitterness and hate, why me? Why did I have to have cancer? Why did you do this to me? Why did you forsake me? Or if I had been that person, that's what the world would have given me back, and I'd have been dead a year ago. If you're not willing to shoulder your own responsibility of the trials and the tribulations that you have to go through to get there, then maybe you're not cut out for it. You have to be willing to be stronger than the fear. And I believe in every single one of you. I believe in every single one of you. I believe every single one of you has the potential to be there. That's why, after 4 years of streaming, after fighting with cancer for 2 years, after having my own struggles, I'm still here talking to you, is because I still believe in your future. That's why I still answer your questions. That's why I still bring you guests. That's why I still, to this day, want you to be successful every day. With that being said, we're at the 2-hour mark. We've had a ton. Fix It, are you streaming right now? I know you're in my chat, but are you streaming right now, Fix It, or are you about to go to bed? I appreciate everybody tuning in with me this morning for Tea with a Hacker. Again, I apologize we missed yesterday's stream with Jax. She was feeling down. You can still tell I still got a little bit of crud inside of my chest. I'm trying to flush it out today because I got to go perform. Fix It, go fire up your stream. We'll go raid you. DM me when you get your stream up and running. We'll go raid you over there. Trying to finish off this crud. We will be streaming Sec Data Ops in 2 weeks. So stream scheduled just for the next couple weeks. There may or may not be a stream this coming Monday, yet to be determined. We haven't decided yet. Next Friday, there will be no stream because I'm going to be at state championship, competing for the state championship. I ask if you're willing to, please follow me on my Instagram, IT Junkie on my Instagram. I ask that you follow me there and send me well wishes. I read every single DM. I always have read every single DM. Next week is going to be a huge week for me. I mean, next couple weeks are going to be super huge for me as well. But I appreciate all the support that I get in my DMs, especially as I go into golf tournaments. They absolutely help me out. So next Friday, there won't be a Tea with a Hacker because we'll be fighting for our state championship next week. 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll have the next Sec Data Ops. I saw somebody mention that they missed Joel. I think Callie said they missed Joel. As of right now, Joel is tentatively scheduled to be on Sec Data Ops in 2 weeks from now. I did get a text confirmation from Joel. We will have the great and awesome Joel Fulton hanging out on Sec Data Ops in 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks from Thursday, yesterday. We'll have Joe Fulton on there. We'll have Jax back. I'm trying to get Jax back 4 weeks from now so that we can have Jax back on here, depending on her schedule. So make sure you do have notifications turned on across all the platforms. Don't anybody leave on Twitch. We're going to go raid Fix It. Fix It's a huge supporter of the stream. I absolutely love seeing Fix It in there. She does a lot of great content. I don't know what she's doing tonight, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome. So if you're on Twitch, hang around. We're going to go raid Fix It, because she's awesome. Folks over on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, I always appreciate you. You can sit there and listen as we sign off. I'm going to go ahead and start the raid here for Fix It. If you are new to raiding, Fix It 42. What we do is we take our entire audience, and we pick it up and we go send it over to somebody else's stream. We bring that same positivity with us when we go to them. It means a lot to a lot of small streamers, a lot of people who are just like you, starting in this industry, and somebody who, like Fix It, is trying to do content to bring more valuable information to you all. And so, go bring that positivity to them. Go make their life awesome, just like you've made my life awesome every single time you all show up. I truly, truly appreciate every single one of you. And whether you're on the red side or the blue side or still deciding, keep learning. You're going to get a message asking to participate in the raid. Once that message gets done, we'll get everybody committed to the raid. A few more seconds. All right, we're going to go raid. Everybody take it easy. We'll see you next week. Or in a couple weeks.